The National Hockey League trade market has significantly intensified, with a recent transaction providing a clear example of what teams might expect to receive for depth defensemen. On Monday night, the New York Rangers and New York Islanders completed a trade that has implications for potential sellers like the Toronto Maple Leafs, particularly as the March 6 trade deadline approaches. This activity underscores the strategic maneuvering by NHL teams aiming to bolster their rosters for imminent playoff pushes, while others are focused on acquiring draft assets for peripheral players. Ahead of the March 6 deadline, the pace of trade activity across the NHL is visibly accelerating. Teams are evaluating their rosters, identifying areas for improvement, and assessing the market value of their assets. The Toronto Maple Leafs find themselves in a unique position, potentially emerging as sellers, despite their competitive standing. This scenario opens up discussions about various peripheral players on their roster who could be moved to acquire future assets. A key transaction that has set a precedent occurred between the New York Rangers and the New York Islanders. The Rangers acquired defenseman Carson Soucy in exchange for a 2026 third-round draft pick. This deal is significant as it represents a quintessential deadline buy for a depth defenseman, providing a tangible market indicator for similar players. Immediately, this trade draws parallels to Toronto Maple Leafs defenseman Simon Benoit, who has recently been a subject of trade speculation. Simon Benoit is currently under contract through the next season, with an acceptable average annual value of $1.35 million. While Benoit does not contribute offensively from the bottom defensive pair, his on-ice value lies in his physicality and his ability to make opponents' play difficult. This skill set bears a notable resemblance to that of Carson Soucy, the player involved in the recent Rangers-Islanders trade. A direct comparison between Benoit and Soucy reveals some critical differences that could influence Benoit's market value. Benoit is 4 years younger than Soucy, and crucially, is under contract for an additional season at a favorable cap hit, whereas Soucy was a pending unrestricted free agent. These factors suggest that Benoit's trade value could potentially surpass the return Soucy commanded. Given these considerations, speculation suggests that the Maple Leafs could secure a mid-round draft pick for Benoit, possibly a third-round selection, or even a combination of a third and a fourth-round pick. This move would be framed as making the most out of the current situation. Benoit's impact this season, while steady, has not been as significant as in previous campaigns for the Maple Leafs, and his long-term future with the team appears increasingly uncertain. Should the Maple Leafs decide to retool their roster, or if they miss the playoffs, trading Benoit would represent a smart and safe strategic move. It would allow the team to acquire valuable assets while simultaneously creating roster flexibility for other players. His statistics for the season include 3 assists in 45 games played, alongside a -4 rating, reflecting his defensive-minded role without significant offensive output. This strategic decision aligns with the broader objective of asset management and future planning, especially in the context of the evolving trade market. The Maple Leafs management will need to carefully weigh the immediate impact of losing a depth defenseman against the long-term benefits of acquiring draft capital. The precedent set by the Soucy trade offers a clear benchmark for such evaluations. The NHL trade deadline landscape is intensifying, with teams actively seeking to strengthen their rosters for playoff contention or to offload assets for future considerations. This period always brings a flurry of activity, and the current environment is no exception, with the March 6 deadline rapidly approaching. The Toronto Maple Leafs, despite their competitive standing, are increasingly being discussed as potential sellers. This designation opens up various discussions regarding peripheral players on their roster who could be moved to acquire future assets. The recent transaction between the New York Rangers and the New York Islanders has provided a clear precedent for the market value of depth defensemen. In that deal, the Rangers acquired defenseman Carson Soucy in exchange for a 2026 third-round draft pick. This trade is particularly noteworthy as it epitomizes a quintessential deadline acquisition for a team looking to bolster its defensive depth. It offers a tangible market indicator for similar players, immediately drawing parallels to Toronto Maple Leafs defenseman Simon Benoit. Benoit has recently been a subject of trade speculation, aligning with the broader trend of teams assessing their assets. Simon Benoit is currently under contract through the next season, carrying an average annual value of $1.35 million, which is considered acceptable within the league's salary structure. While Benoit does not contribute significantly to offense from the bottom defensive pair, his on-ice value is undeniable. He brings a crucial element of physicality and a hard-to-play againstness that is highly valued, particularly in playoff scenarios. This specific skill set bears a notable resemblance to that of Carson Soucy, the defenseman central to the recent Rangers-Islanders trade. A direct comparison between Benoit and Soucy reveals several critical differences that could significantly impact Benoit's market valuation. Benoit is 4 years younger than Soucy, which often translates to higher perceived value and longer-term potential. Crucially, Benoit is under contract for an additional season at a favorable cap hit, providing cost certainty and contractual control, whereas Soucy was a pending unrestricted free agent, offering only a short-term rental option. These contractual and age distinctions suggest that Benoit's trade value could potentially surpass the return Soucy commanded. Given these considerations, speculation within the hockey community suggests that the Maple Leafs could secure a mid-round draft pick for Benoit. This could realistically be a third-round selection, or potentially a combination of a third and a fourth-round pick. Such a move would be framed as a strategic decision, allowing the team to maximize its assets from the current situation. Benoit's impact this season, while consistently reliable defensively, has not been as significant in terms of overall contribution compared to his previous campaigns for the Maple Leafs. Consequently, his long-term future with the team appears increasingly uncertain, especially as the organization assesses its roster needs and cap space. Should the Maple Leafs decide to retool their roster, or if they find themselves outside of a playoff position, trading Benoit would represent a smart and safe strategic maneuver. It would allow the team to acquire valuable draft assets, which are crucial for future team building, while simultaneously creating roster flexibility. This flexibility could be utilized to integrate other prospects or acquire different types of players. His current season statistics include 3 assists in 45 games played, coupled with a -4 rating. These numbers accurately reflect his role as a defensive-minded blue liner, primarily focused on shutting down opponents rather than generating offense. This strategic decision aligns with the broader objective of sound asset management and future planning, particularly within the context of an evolving trade market where comparable transactions set clear benchmarks. The precedent established by the Soucy trade offers a clear and actionable framework for the Maple Leafs management to evaluate and execute such potential moves, ensuring they extract maximum value for their assets. The contractual situation surrounding Simon Benoit is particularly noteworthy. He remains under contract through the entirety of the next season, carrying an average annual value of $35 million. This figure is considered highly acceptable within the stringent financial landscape of the National Hockey League, offering excellent value for a player of his defensive capabilities. While Benoit is not renowned for his offensive contributions from the bottom defensive pair, his value on the ice is unequivocally clear. He consistently provides a vital element of physicality and a hard-to-play againstness that becomes increasingly critical, especially as teams prepare for the demanding environment of playoff hockey. This specific skill set, characterized by defensive reliability and physical engagement, bears a striking resemblance to that of Carson Soucy, the defenseman who was the central figure in the recent Rangers-Islanders trade. A detailed comparison between Benoit and Soucy reveals several key distinctions that could significantly influence Benoit's market valuation. One prominent factor is age. Benoit is 4 years younger than Soucy, which typically translates to a higher perceived value and a longer potential shelf life in the league. Furthermore, and perhaps more importantly, Benoit is under contract for an additional season at a highly favorable cap hit, providing both cost certainty and valuable contractual control for any acquiring team. In contrast, Soucy was a pending unrestricted free agent, meaning he offered only a short-term rental option to the Islanders. These combined contractual and age advantages strongly suggest that Benoit's trade value could realistically surpass the return that Soucy ultimately commanded. Considering these factors, current speculation within various hockey circles indicates that the Maple Leafs could realistically secure a mid-round draft pick in exchange for Benoit. This could materialize as a single third-round selection, or potentially a more lucrative package involving a third-round pick coupled with a fourth-round pick. Such a transaction would be strategically framed as a move to maximize the team's assets from its current roster composition. It would allow the organization to extract tangible value from a depth player. Benoit's on-ice impact this season, while consistently reliable in his defensive assignments, has not been as pronounced in terms of overall contribution compared to his previous campaigns with the Maple Leafs. This perceived shift in impact, combined with other roster considerations, contributes to the increasing uncertainty surrounding his long-term future with the team, particularly as the organization continuously evaluates its roster needs and salary cap flexibility. Should the Maple Leafs leadership decide to undertake a retooling of their roster, or if the team finds itself in a position where a playoff berth becomes unlikely, trading Benoit would represent a sound and prudent strategic maneuver. Such a move would enable the team to acquire valuable draft assets, which are indispensable for future team building and sustaining competitiveness over the long term. Concurrently, it would create additional roster flexibility, which could then be utilized to integrate promising prospects from their development system, or to acquire different types of players who better fit a revised team strategy. This flexibility is crucial for adapting to the dynamic demands of NHL competition. Benoit's current season statistics, encompassing 3 assists in 45 games played and a -4 rating, accurately reflect his defined role as a defensive-minded blue liner. His primary focus remains on effectively shutting down opposing offenses rather than contributing significantly to offensive production. This strategic decision aligns perfectly with the broader objectives of sound asset management and meticulous future planning, especially within the context of an evolving trade market where comparable transactions consistently establish clear and measurable benchmarks. The precedent set by the Soucy trade offers a clear and actionable framework for the Maple Leafs management to thoroughly evaluate and efficiently execute such potential moves, thereby ensuring they extract the maximum possible value for their available assets. This methodical approach underscores a commitment to long-term success and adaptability within the league.